So, hi, and welcome to our second virtual town hall. Once again, I just want to say thank you so much to all the hard work of all the folks at Marshall Space Flight Center. I know this is a difficult and trying time, but I really appreciate all the hard work and efforts that you do to keep the center going. I also want to do a special shout out to our Mission Essential folks. I will tell you, you are really making a difference keeping the center running safely and securely. From the International Space Station Payload Ops Office to our Facilities Office to the people that are in the receiving office, logistics, our security. I will tell you, you are making a huge difference, and I really appreciate each and every one of you for what you're doing every day. As you can see today, I have David Thaxton joining me, who is the Marshall's Operational and Health Officer. I have Paul McConnaughey, the Deputy Manager for the Center, and also the Associate Manager, Steve Miley. What we'd like to do today is to answer what you have asked a week, to really do an update and tell you what's going on. And I really want to stress that we're all in this together. You know, it really does make a difference in that you being as safe as you possibly can. We want to make sure that we ensure your well-being of you and your family. And we also want to make sure that you understand what the center is going through, what we're doing to try to bring the center back online, and how it affects you. So today we'll be answering your questions, but I really want to stress, just like I did the last time, I know this is a difficult situation, but I know that it is most important the safety of our employees and the safety of what you're doing. So I know many of you are asking, and some of the questions we've had continue to be, well, when are we coming back to work? And I will tell you, you've been at work. You're working hard. It's really what we're trying to coordinate is when it will be safe for the majority of us to come back onto site. And as we go forward through this, we're going to do it in an organized manner, but I'll guarantee you, and I want to emphasize, just like I did last time, we want to bring you on when it is safe in your environment for you to be on site working. We want to make sure that we take care of you, your health, and making sure that you and your family continue to be safe. So with that, I'd like to transition over to the questions. We'll do like we did before, where I get to ask the questions, and maybe a couple of them I'll answer, but mainly I want to turn it over to each of the individuals between David and Paul and Steve to help me out today. So with that, I'm going to pick up my questions, and we'll go to answering them. All right? So, question number 1. This will go to David. Several of you have asked about wearing masks at work and whether employees should wear masks when we return to the office. So, David, can you give us a good answer on that?
I'll give it a shot. That's an excellent question, Ms. Jody. Today, we are all encouraged to follow the CDC guidelines on the use of cloth mask coverings in public settings, in places like the grocery store and where social distancing measures are difficult to maintain. The guidance is also extended to locations at NASA centers. Wearing a cloth mask is not a substitute for social distancing. It adds another layer of personal protection. NASA employees and contractors are strongly encouraged to follow the CDC guidelines. When we return, we expect to do so in an orderly manner, where we will step down the NASA response framework from stages 4 to 3, 2, then 1. We have also begun to develop NASA return to work guidance, and as long as CDC recommends cloth face coverings, we will encourage NASA employees to follow these recommendations where appropriate. One thing I want to remind everyone is that masks like N95 are considered approved respirators, and they should only be used for protection by those who have been trained, medically approved, and authorized to wear them at NASA.
Okay, thank you, David. And I would like to add, I did follow some of the guidelines, and I did go and get my sewing machine out, and I have made myself my own personal cloth mask, of which I've been wearing when I have to be out and about. But I will tell you, I think taking this very seriously is the right thing to do, not only for the health of our workforce, but for our community and our family. So question number 2. Steve, this is going to be a question I'm going to ask you to answer. It says, with spring break and possibly many summer vacation plans disrupted over the COVID-19, is there any consideration to carry over any annual leave into next year to help employees and programs?
Okay, thanks, Jody. Yeah, the Office of Personnel Management has actually been discussing this topic, and although they don't have any current plans to extend the use or lose annual leave because it's so early in the year, we are still able to go ahead and schedule and use our annual leave. We're not prevented from taking annual leave during this time. Now, that in mind, bearing in mind that a lot of people's vacation plans and spring break plans have definitely been interrupted. But as of right now, we are able to still take some leave if you're able to do that. As far as the other area besides annual leave is compensatory time, and a lot of the times you may have compensatory time that's set to expire, and so the Office of Personnel Management is looking at comp time as well as use or lose leave. But like I say, right now, no decision has been made on extending that. But we are aware of it. We've had this question several times, and so we know it's important to everyone and would like to get an answer as soon as we can. And we'll stay tuned with the Office of Personnel Management through our human resources offices on any future guidance on that.
Thank you, Steve. And again, I will stress to our workforce it is important to have a balanced life as far as your work, how you're trying to do telework, and also making sure that you do take breaks and that you do give yourself time to take care of yourself and to make sure that you have those mental and physical breaks to make sure that you stay safe at work. So question number 3, Paul. When we do report to work on the work site, will it be phased or will the entire workforce report in one day? Is Marshall going to be allowed to go back to normal for other high-risk areas, or will NASA wait until all centers are able to open at once?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, Jody, because to start with, when do we do report to work? Well, we're reporting to work every day, right? We're just not reporting to work on site every day. So we'll talk about return to site. And I expect that as getting back to the Marshall physical location will be a transition much like we had before. Will be a function of who's doing what and what phase the center's in. As we had a countdown, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, where we had going down to critical and central personnel. We're currently in stage 4. We will then transition back to stage 3. The people going back on site will depending on what kind of work they're doing, and we'll go to stage 2 and we'll see how that works there. So obviously we're depending on input at the national level, the guidance from the CDC, what we're seeing in terms of national policy and direction towards government employees. But we'll always be working to the social distancing guidelines coming out of the CDC. And also we'll be looking for a conscious direction from NASA headquarters. And we'll also consider our regional situation. For example, we'll get some guidance from headquarters, but it doesn't mean that one size fits all. You may see a different transition between Ames Research Center in California versus here at Marshall versus Langley in Virginia. In fact, you may see a difference between going back to site between Marshall and Michoud, because again, the COVID-19 environments are very different between those two. So we'll see how that goes. We do expect very much a phased approach as we continue to coordinate with both regional and local folks. I know, Jody, you're talking a lot to the mayor, talking a lot to the folks here in town and in the county. We watch very carefully what's happening in Huntsville, and we actually monitor the 100-mile radius around Marshall, where we have a lot of our employees that commute in. So we're taking all those considerations, all those situations and possible, and try to get everybody back to site. It'll be a risk-based decision based on the type of work being done and the current risk posture of the physical location and the health situation. But no matter what the center stage is, I like to emphasize, and I think David already talked about this, everybody's responsible for not only their own health, but the fact that we can start working closer together on site. We're also responsible for the health that goes around us. In fact, we're in that position now. Really, COVID-19 is really a community pandemic. So as we have that interaction, we have some sort of embedded risk in terms of contact, and we're trying to minimize that. The emphasis and bottom line is you got to take care of yourself, but also consider your neighbor. And as we walk around town, I don't think we've all seen the signs, but we're all in this together, 6 feet apart. So that's kind of the way we are. We're close, but no closer than 6 feet, and I think we'll probably continue to stay that way for a while. So I think that's a reasonable answer to that long question.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Okay, question number 4. The question was, are there specific plans being made on how to conduct meetings upon return? An example is continuing to hold virtual meetings from your office instead of conference rooms. Will social distancing still be in effect for a specific period of time? I'll answer this one. I would say yes to all of that. We will be doing to the maximum extent practical, as Paul said, as we return to work, and again, I shouldn't say return to work, return to site. We will return to site in a methodical way. We'll be looking at the jobs. We'll be trying to understand what can be done. We still will be encouraging, I'm very sure, a lot of teleworking and a lot of the activities that we're already learning to do. We will still be enforcing safe distancing. And I will tell you, I know that is one of the things that will keep us safe. We're also working, Steve Miley is also working a lot with a lot of the agency leads on trying to work on, with our Deputy Administrator, Jim Moorhard, on our actual plans for what it means to returning to work, to the work site. So we are each discussing it. We're talking about the type of work, we're talking about the situation, the facilities, understanding safe distancing, understanding what work we can do by teleconference, what work we have to have that's hands-on. In each one of those cases, we're looking at ways in which to be able to do it, and we're taking advantage of many of the things that we're learning today on how to be able to do things more. In some areas, we've gotten some inputs that it's more practical for them to be doing telework. Many of us find that there's other ways that we have to be doing our work. But I will tell you, yes, we're going to be doing it in many different ways, and we just have to work it on a case-by-case basis to try to determine what's the best way to safely, productively return to the work site. And I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that to help me out. You're more than welcome to. If not, I'll go to question 5, and Steve, you're going to get that one. Okay, question number 5. Can we have additional hand sanitizer dispensers installed throughout the facility, similar to the hospital that has hand sanitizers on every floor? Steve?
Yes, thanks, Jody. We are looking at that right now. In fact, I was just discussing this topic earlier with our Center Ops Director, Roy Malone, on evaluating the placement of hand sanitizers in areas around the center. So we're looking at that. A decision will be made soon on getting those. Of course, there is part of the topic right now of the discussion is getting a hold of them, getting the actual hand sanitizer itself, getting the dispensers and so on. But we feel relatively sure that in time we'll get access to those supplies and be able to get hold of them. And I expect, I can't tell you right this minute on how many there will be, but I can tell you for sure there will be many additional hand sanitizing stations around the center, especially in high traffic areas like elevators, stairwells, conference rooms, and things like that, where it's convenient for people to use those before and after meetings and events. I do want to remind you also, though, that frequent hand washing with soap and water is still the best method for cleaning your hands. So definitely, although hand sanitizer, we think of that as being so convenient, and it is very convenient, it is really a secondary method to getting a good cleaning of your hands, and the regular soap and water in the sink is the absolute best way to wash your hands. So that's all I've got for that one.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Okay, question number 6. Paul, are there any expected layoffs to NASA employees or contractors at this time?
No, we don't expect any layoffs of NASA civil servant contractors. In fact, we have, to my knowledge, none to date. Actually, we're doing everything we can to ensure that everyone receives payment in this difficult situation. That's really on the civil servant side, and there's a lot of provisions being made for our contractor team members for them to get their paychecks. So those contract payments will continue to be dispersed and ensure that the funding for the personnel for their work. And in fact, Jason Detko and his team actually come up with some sort of, at the agency level, just negotiating advanced agreements for contractors that have people available that would be doing work if they can't do it on site, that precludes them from working in there. So they now have a framework where those people can get paid for their work, and those people can be reimbursed even though they can't do their work remotely. So this is especially enabled by some of the existing procurement clauses, but also importantly some help from Congress, which recently passed the CARE Act, which did add for us the ability to establish to pay our contractors, both big and small contractors, both on-site and off-site, who are not able to perform their work as normal given the coronavirus and the associated restrictions. So in general, this is a good story. We're really in much better shape than we were when we had the previous furlough. But we do continue to pay close attention to all our team members, and the longer this goes on, we'll have to probably continue to pay more diligence in this area.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And I would add to that I am planning on this week, myself, Jason Detko, David Brock, we're going to be meeting with many of our contractors and having an all hands with them just to also address any issues that they have. So that'll be another way that we'll be trying to do an outreach to the community and making sure we can keep everybody as informed as possible.
Yeah, and so Jody, this is another example of where I think we really took lessons learned from the furlough and applied those so that when this issue came up, I think we were very well prepared, and we haven't seen nearly the challenges nor feedback from the contractor team that we had in the furlough. So I think we really are in pretty good shape here.
Yes, thank you, yes. Okay, question number 7. David, this one's for you. Will a deep cleaning be done at the center before we go back to work at Marshall?
That's a great question. We are enhancing custodial services at the center. All areas we know where an individual that was diagnosed with COVID-19 have been thoroughly cleaned and disinfected per the CDC guidelines. We're also planning for an enhanced cleaning of high-touched areas in common areas prior to returning to site. In addition to the CDC guidelines, the agency is assessing appropriate cleaning protocols for use by our custodial staff as we prepare buildings for reoccupation.
And I know that'll be a critical, as we return to the work site, that'll be some of the things that we'll be doing more of is looking at the different areas, making sure that they're safe for return, and just making sure that we understand the conditions before our workforce returns to the work site, just like we did when we had the furlough in the past. We did the same thing, looking to make sure the workstations and the environments in the areas were ready to receive our employees. So that's much appreciated. And I know there's a lot of hard work going into that, and we really appreciate the teams that are continuing to keep the site operational and running. Okay, question number 8 that we have says, have any estimates been released about the delays that COVID-19 will have on the space launch system deliveries? I will say right now, from our knothole, we do know that we have and are experiencing some impacts to the Space Launch System program. Since we're in stage 4, we know that the Michoud assembly facility, the critical manufacturing activity was shut down. And we also have stopped some of the work that's going on at Marshall Space Flight Center to make sure that we keep our employees safe. So we are trying to collect the information not only on Space Launch System, but across the board in all of our programs to see if there are any impacts, and we're trying to collect those costs. In the meantime, as I said, we have still been working from a telework standpoint, so there's been many activities that continue to keep ongoing. There's critical design reviews that are continuing to keep going. However, we do know that the green run activity that is at Stennis, it was put on hold. Again, I talked about the manufacturing activities that are going on at Michoud, but then we've also had many partners of contractor sites where we have many of the hardware that is still flowing. So we still have work that's going on in Florida. We still have work that's going on in engine production. We still have work that's continuing with our booster activity. So there's many areas that are continuing in some of their manufacturing areas, but we do that we will have impacts to the Space Launch System, and we'll be assessing that as we go forward. But the best and the most critical thing that we have is keeping our workforce safe and making sure that as we go forward and try to deliver on our missions, that we do it as safely as we can, keeping our workforce safe and keeping our families safe. Okay, then next question we have, Paul, is going to go to you. It says there have been many questions regarding using alternate collaboration tools such as Zoom, Adobe, Connect, GoToMeetings, and etc. Even though we stress using Teams and Skype and WebEx, what do we do if we're getting pressure from partners to use other tools?
Yeah, so this is one I can speak from personal experience, Jody. I understand the difficulty in using Teams and Skype and WebEx. Teams can be a challenge at times. Skype, I haven't figured that out yet. And the last agency telecon I was on with Jersey, I was talking to myself because I couldn't figure out how to turn the WebEx sound on. So, yes, that can be challenging at times. And with respect to Zoom, I'll do a little mea culpa here. I had Zoom on my NASA phone, but I had to take it off because it turns out Zoom is not licensed or authorized. So I got chased by Neil down the hall and pulling it off my machine. But Zoom is not licensed or authorized by NASA, and so they are not used on NASA IT devices. If they're any of our government first equipment, our contractor provided equipment, or any device that NASA connects to the NASA network or VPN. The reason for this is Zoom is not secure, and anything you say over that can be accessed or listened to, and also any of the sensitive information put across that cannot be protected. So NASA employees and contractors may not initiate a Zoom meeting. So the bottom line on it, it should be not on our devices. However, if an external partner invites us to use Zoom to the meeting, we can participate, but we must go through the browser-based web interface. Do not go through the app on your NASA device. So go through there at zoom.com, use a browser-based web interface, and you have a more secure environment there. But if you do participate, though, in an externally based hosted Zoom meeting, do not discuss or share SBU. Again, it's not protected data, so we cannot let that data go into the public. We cannot risk having that data go into the public environment. And associated with that, part of the reason for the concern here is the federal agency, specifically NASA, is really being targeted for a lot of phishing and malware attempts for significantly higher levels than we had prior to the COVID activity. We're not just talking the fact that 2 or 3, some of the numbers we've seen some Neil, it's kind of like nearly an order of magnitude attempts on some of the NASA intrusions. So I think at this time, there's a risk we don't want to take, and I think we want to stay away some of these unapproved social communication devices, specifically Zoom, GoToConnect, and GoToMeet.
Yes, thank you. And I would say just a big shout out to our job. Very fantastic job by our IT team, making sure that we are being able to telework, all the systems, the communication, just a fantastic job by the team. So thank you so much, Neil, to you and your IT team. You're knocking it out of the ballpark. Okay, question number 10 goes to Steve Miley. And looks like this has got a couple of parts to it, so bear with me, Steve. It said, Steve, are there any thoughts on how NASA Marshall may reorient our operations to accommodate a scenario where we may need to continue social distancing into June or July? And number 2, will employees who can effectively do their jobs on full-time telework be given the approval to do so if they feel their personal safety is at risk?
Okay, thanks, Jody. Yes, question number 1 is a yes, and question number 2 is a yes, but I'll elaborate a little bit. On question 1, we are discussing options on how to continue work at Marshall as far as returning to site. It may be needing to use social distancing for an extended period of time. And, you know, Jody, you have reminded the whole leadership team and also on your center director messages that how important the employees are and how important the safety and health of our employees are. And you've definitely set the tone for all of us on that. And you will not ask us to do anything that will put our safety or health in jeopardy. And we all of the employees of Marshall really appreciate that. But to say, it's safe to say we will not authorize your return to on-site until it's safe to do so, and we won't unnecessarily ask people to do that until it's safe to be on site. As far as individual requests where you're getting on a case-by-case basis, those are always approved on an individual basis by the supervisor. But as far as the general question of, you know, is it possible that we could extend the telework beyond into June or July? That's absolutely possible. And we will, as you mentioned earlier, we'll tend to make stronger use of these networking tools and these social technology tools like the Teams, the Microsoft Teams. We'll make use of these tools in ways that probably we hadn't even thought to use them in the past.
Okay, thank you, Steve, very, very much. Like the last question, this gets to us where each one of you will get to answer the question for me. How have you been separating work from your personal time during your telework? So what are you doing to make sure that you have personal time and that you're not just staying glued to your computer, that you are doing things to make sure that you stay healthy? What are you doing? So, David, how about you?
Well, things have lightened up a little bit since our last town hall. I'm getting away from the computer a little more and working more on the outside, trying to tidy up a few projects I've had going for several years now. So that's given me a little bit more time to do that, and also taking a little more time to spend with my family. So it's getting better.
I'll go ahead and go next. So what I do, Jody, is I take a freeze frame picture of Paul and I put it on my camera and I just walk away from the laptop, and people think I'm there, but in reality I get more personal time. No, seriously, I don't do that, but it's a nice concept. So typically my day starts like any other work day. Get up, coffee, breakfast. As you all know, some of you may know, I tend to eat breakfast in my meetings. at work, and just like I do here at home, I eat my breakfast during the first meeting or two. At least it's about a 1 hour process. I always make sure I take a lunch every day. So you will find that on my calendar there's a half hour to an hour lunch, and I make sure I take that, and I don't work emails. I walk away, do things around the house, and at the end of the day, typically around 4 or 5 o'clock, I turn the computer off and walk away. And I try not to look at the phone at all. Make sure in the evenings I spend some time.
It's 14 now.
Spend some time exercising, walk with the dogs, spending time with significant others, and actually connect with some with friends. So I think that social connection is important. And it's also important just to get around and walk around the neighborhood. I think that's soothing for everybody's soul at this time.
Great. How about you, Steve?
Hey, Jody. Well, I would start my answer by saying, first of all, I think that you and Paul have helped set the tone for all of us on this topic, that we should separate, even though we're working from home, that we should try to separate our work from our personal time at home. So it's nice to know, you don't necessarily expect me to pick up an email or something like that in the evening after work hours. So that's been very helpful, I think, to the whole team. I think for me personally, it helps me to have where I use this for my office. It's not where I sit, where I'm eating dinner and maybe watching TV or anything like that. So, or where I do my exercising, if I go on the treadmill or anything like that. This room is away. So one thing I've done lately, the last week or so, is I've been shutting my computer. I noticed my computer, it'll ping when emails come and stuff. And so anyway, I've been shutting my laptop, closing it when I'm trying to walk away for the day. So, but I need to do a better job, though. I haven't been doing a very good job of keeping them separate, to be honest.
So Steve, tell us about that big fish you caught.
Yeah, last week I went out and went fishing one night and did a catch and release of a big bass. And last weekend, my wife caught a real big catfish, the biggest fish she's ever caught in her whole life, and so that was fun. We were doing that on the weekend and didn't have the computer on at all, so that was awesome. But we released the catfish also.
And I was just going to say, for me, one thing I did is I did change rooms. So I was working in the kitchen more, and I found out, like you said, I was trying to do too much and wasn't taking a good enough break. So I moved my space that I'm working in into a different room. And as a result of that, then I do make myself take more breaks. I have to get up to go get a coffee or go get my food or do different things. And because of that, that's giving me a little bit more exercise. Plus, I'm also trying to make sure that I spend more time talking to my family. That also pushes me to talk to them and have more social interaction. To me, that's also helped me because I'm an introvert. I'm a natural introvert. So a lot of times the natural introverts may not have trouble sheltering in place. But if you're like me and you have a spouse that is an extrovert, you find out that they do need that interaction. So a lot of stress-relieving activity is just kind of talking to different folks around you, making time to make conversations, to check on each other, and to just make yourself get up, walk around, get some exercise, and just see what's going on in the neighborhood. And like you say, at a safe distance. But I will tell you, it makes a difference just to get up and take a break. And I highly encourage everyone. And as we said before, it's also setting limits for yourself of when it's time to be at work and when it's time to walk away. And then also having kind of rules. And that's the way we've all been working with each other, is to say if it's an emergency, we'll call each other on the phone. Otherwise, just because we send an email, we don't expect an immediate response. And we need to make sure we respect those time limits. So with that, I think we have concluded the questions that we have. And once again, I want to say we really do appreciate the inputs that all of you that send in questions. This is an opportunity for us to share and to talk about things that are on the mind. Also, I encourage you to make sure that you stay in tune. Make sure you monitor nasa.people.nasa.gov. Also, your supervisor, as well as Inside Marshall and ExploreNet. We'll try to do our best to keep you informed. As you know, between the things that from the president to the governor to our local area, we have to keep an eye on everything that's going on in our area and stay smart. I encourage you to stay safe, and I know that we have a lot of work that's ongoing right now and that we're working hard on site as well as off site to get our jobs done. And it's important. We do important work, and you are important. And to do your best and to execute on our mission, we all have to stay safe. And I know these changes that we're going through are temporary. I know that we have new normals that we're setting. And I know when we return to on-site working, that things will change, and we'll be more aware of our environment. We'll be more aware of the social settings, and we'll still stay focused, though, on what we're doing. I will tell you, I know particularly this week, we're coming up on Earth Day. So we were going to be able to celebrate it a little different, but I will tell you that's part of my challenge to you is help us celebrate Earth Day. Make sure you get out and enjoy the environment, take advantage of Earth Day and the beautiful world that we live in. And I also want to do a special shout out. Next week also is, if for those of you that didn't know it, is Administrative Professional Day. And I just want to say a big shout out to all of our administrative professionals. You are what makes the difference. Steve and Paul and myself and Preston, there's a lot of times that we may hold certain jobs at the center, but we really know who makes the center run. And you make it run well. So just a big shout out to all the folks, all the administrative assistants that help and make this happen. You are the professionals that help us execute on our mission, and we appreciate what you do each and every day. So we look forward to being back on site and working side by side with you. But in the meantime, we don't want you to think that we have forgotten about your importance and what you do. You make it important every day. And I will tell you, from us professionally, from Nancy to Karen to Ann that are supporting us, y'all are making it tick and keeping us in line on meetings and helping us establish meetings and do what we need to do to get our job done. So we just really want to appreciate that. And again, once more, thank you so much for all you do. Stay safe, be smart, work hard, and make sure you take breaks. So until we talk to each other again, you're in my thoughts. Let us know how we can help and keep in touch. Talk to you later. Thank you, David, Paul, and Steve, for helping me out.
Thanks, folks. See you.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.